So the question I want to ask today is were we actually barbarians? Were we cannibals? Because these are questions that we try not to ask, but I think it's high time we start asking those questions because the white man looked at the Igbo man and called the Igbo man a monkey. Asị na nwoke Igbo bụ enwe, anyị bụzi enwe. Na, the way our melanin and our cultural practice, they called us pagans. We sacrificed human beings. But the question here is, were we really barbaric? Did we ever consume human flesh as food? Now, why would we do that? We have apple, we have G, we have umano, we have mango, we have guava, we have which fruit don't we have? It grows naturally in our environment. So why would we choose to eat our fellow human beings when we have all these resources available to us? That's just an instance. Now, people have to know about a concept before they actually know that it exists. Iriano mad ordinomenanai. Now, the white men, their climate, their weather and the rest of it might not really favor the kind of, might not really favor them unlike us. But somehow they turned that narrative. They turned something that is rooted in their own civilization to be something that is rooted in our own civilization. But I don't want to go far in that. So what brought me here is to understand or to ask these questions. Were we really barbarians? Were we barbaric? So when we talk about history, we might try to kind of whitewash it, make it not to look like we're trying to absolve our ancestors for all their crimes. When we talk about slaves, our ancestors had slaves. That's a pure fact. Maybe after a war, they would, the people there, they would take one or two people, women, men, children as slaves. Now, some of them are dedicated to Alose. They tend to be the service of a deity for a period of time. But what I want to ask my own problem here is that were we really barbarian? Now, there are so many instances, but I want to be looking at a particular woman in history. She's the wickedest of them all. I'm just going to be honest. And her name is Maria Delphine Lalaurie. I'm pronouncing it right. Now, this woman, she owned slaves in those days. She lived in New Orleans, French quarters, in her royal mansion streets. So by all and all, she's a very comfortable woman. Married 3 husbands, each of them loaded. And some people felt she is or she was a gold digger, because at the end of the marriage, the men died from, whatever circumstances. She jumps to the next rich man, has properties in her name. But then she has a distinct taste. She had slaves just like every other white man in that era. Now, according to history, they said during that time, it was when slaves were revolting. That was after Haiti Revolution. Slaves were killing their masters. So I think this narrative was actually trying to justify Lalaurie's maltreatment, torture on the blacks for whatever reason. So this narrative that I'm trying to bring in now is trying to justify it. But let's look at how she treated her slaves. So they said the first story I want to talk about was the 8-year-old girl Leah, who in the process of combing her hair hit a snag. When you're combing hair, not like us that have, strong, woolly African hair. But, you know how white women say, especially if it is not really kept well, not threatened and the rest of it. But every woman always have that, that time where you're combing your hair and it's like it's stuck on the comb. So the small girl, an 8-year-old girl, was combing the hair and hit that snag. Now, once that happened, this woman picked up her whip, chased this small baby, tried to beat her with it. Now, people said she either jumped when she was trying to flee from Lalaurie, or the woman intentionally pushed her and she fell to her death. Now, she didn't bury her, she just threw her inside the well. This is an 8-year-old baby. Now, they said that she tried to, because her husbands and brothers were always sleeping with, raping female slaves, she felt that disdain for Negro women. And what did she do? She cuts off the gallbladder and uses it as a mixture to maintain eternal beauty for her husband. God. Okay, yeah. She mixed it up in a poultice and she rubs it on her face to maintain beauty, and still she's, So that's just one thing about it though. Then in this process, so at some point, because there is how long you can try to maltreat people, beat people, and they would have to either revolt or they will look for an escape. So an old woman whom she always beats the children, she now chained the woman to the kitchen stove. Now she intentionally started a fire because she wanted to commit suicide. Started the fire, and once she started the fire, the thing now blew open her atrocities. Now, initially, they've actually sent an inquest to understand, because people kept complaining about the kind of the maltreatment, the living condition, and the rest of it. People were like, "Oh, this is not it." Then they sent in a lawyer, and the lawyer claimed he didn't see anything. The investigator claimed he didn't see anything, so he left the estate. Now, after that, let me go back to the story of Leah. After Leah died, there was an inquest on what happened. They found her guilty. Then what did they do? They sanctioned her. Now, the sanction they gave her was to confiscate 9 slaves. These are human beings that we're talking about. They confiscated human beings like property. God, oh. They took these people. Now, what did they do? Her family members went behind and bought these 9 slaves back and put them back into the house again. Now, they will say, Africans are barbarians. Africans are barbaric. But look at what she's doing. And they turn the blind eye to this reality. So, after the fire happened, so people were rushing in, trying to, save people, trying to save whatever they can salvage. Now, they tried to collect the key from her husband, and her husband was like, "Why don't people mind their business? You don't put your mouth into another man's household or how another man runs his home." So people burst into the flames and tried to save people. So they said when they went to the attic, that what they saw at that point was not just the worst form of torture, not just the worst form of the humanizing experience. So I'm going to talk about some of the graphic things that some of these people saw. They saw a woman with a open head injury that left her and she couldn't even stand up. Already it was maggot infested, but she was still alive. Another woman was chained with an iron collar on her neck, not even giving her room to stretch, not even giving her room to turn her neck. Another man had the mouth sewn shut with feces. What kind of a woman was this? Now, when they saw this, the mob, because they fixed the fire, but because of that, people were so angry that the mob had to destroy the house, burn it down. Now, there wasn't any inquest. They didn't try to hold this woman and her family accountable for what they did. What now happened? She fled during the mob action. Now, those people that were rescued, God, I think this is the most heartbreaking moment for me when I was, reading through these things. Those people that were saved from the woman, Delphine, was not even given enough medical attention, don't even take it to the hospital. What they did was to pick them up, put them in a police jail, and display them for 4,000 people to come and look. I wrote that what they said is 4,000 people viewed these slaves to convince themselves of their suffering. Yeah, African. We were barbarians. So I'm going to ask this question to whoever that is watching me. If they tell you that your ancestors were barbaric, your ancestors were barbarians in need of salvation, you should ask this question. Have they salvaged their own people before looking at us? I don't want to go deep into the Igbo tenants, about who we are. But I'm going to continuously ask this question. Were we barbarians? Let's look at this piece of history of Madame Marie Delphine Lalaurie. Research about her, look her up, and ask this question. If we were barbaric, what about these people? Now, this is like a little percentage of the horror transatlantic slave afflicted on Africa. So I'm going to stop here, and hopefully I make this into a series. Occasionally, brush up about wicked people like this, and let my fellow countryman and woman to know that we have more to offer than a hearsay, she-say scenario about our history, about our spirituality, about our culture. So until next time, take care.